Okay, so my name is Jensen Roll.
And my name is Mtende Roll.
And we are excited to be starting this conversation around building in Alamance County and the things we love about this community, and just sharing some of our insights into the industry.
And we both work for Roll Construction. We started it, we work in it, and happy to be here.
So Roll Construction started in 2018. Kind of came out of a crazy time of life for us. We were just getting to know each other in our first year of marriage.
I married in 2017, March of 2017.
2017, so 2018, first year of marriage, and we started the company, and in the beginning, we would kind of take on any job. So I had a little bit of experience working for a previous contractor, but before that, I was in business school and didn't have a whole lot of background in the building industry.
When I first came to the US, one of the projects that I helped start was when you were building your tiny house.
Yeah.
And learned how to weld very, very poorly, but we did it-ish.
Yep.
So I think the tiny house was the first
project we did together.
Yeah, first thing we built together. And built, I use that term very, very lightly.
Yeah, so I was a student at Elon. We were building a tiny house on wheels. Not a great project to start off with, but really fun process sometimes and really frustrating other times. But then jumping back to 2018, we started the company with kind of just a love for working with our hands, working with customers, challenging problems every day. Pretty early on, started to build a team to be able to, dive into these different projects we had. By the end of that first year, we had everything underway. We were looking for clients to do remodels and additions predominantly. We were doing some projects for ourselves at that time. We had some rentals. I think one of our very first larger projects at the time was building the tiny house behind our first house.
Yeah, to give more context to that time period, we lived in about an 800 square foot house. It was 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. At that point, Jens was primarily more in the construction-ish, working for somebody else, while I was still waiting for different paperwork and documentation to come into play. So we decided to do what is now known as house hacking.
Yep.
But back then it was like, we've got an extra bedroom, let's put it on Airbnb. And that's what we did. And from some of those Airbnb tenants that kept on coming in, one of them ended up becoming a essential flatmate. And that's what sparked the building a tiny house behind our house, because sharing 1 bathroom with 1 extra person that you don't really know very well.
In your first couple years of marriage, where you're still figuring out how to live together, and now you've got this third roommate who is not really, like they're kind of ignoring you, you're kind of ignoring them, but you still have to share.
Space.
Yeah. So.
But I think that was seeing you in that environment. I mean, it was still very new. So figuring out, okay, are you going to continue taking that construction route while I finish school and find something else that could at least give us healthcare and all of those fun things. But as you continued getting your hands into the construction world, you ended up getting your GC license. And sort of our investing and construction journey started at the same time, because the area that we live, Alamance County, is pretty much more affordable relative to the cities around us. So our first house and that tiny house, as we rented them out and moved on to the next house, that became a pretty good strategy for us.
We have 2 points of the business, or 2 kind of focuses. We have the active construction side of the business, and then we have the property, portfolio and management side of the company. And we stumbled into kind of the industry as a whole, and then we kind of really got our feet wet by working on some of our own projects. We didn't have clients that were banging down our door to have us build them a brand new home right away. And so some of the first kind of ground up projects we did were our own. As we got to the point where we were no longer wanting to have somebody in our 850 square foot home, we built out the tiny house behind our current house, and she moved back there, and we got our house back. Still sharing a driveway, but it was way easier to share a driveway than it was a bathroom.
Yes.
And then from there, we moved into our first large remodel. And that was, not down to the studs, but a pretty significant project. And at that point, we learned that Ntende is a pretty good designer when it comes to floor plans. But the timing's not always perfect. I remember we were standing in the primary bedroom, and we had just had the structural engineer come, and we were talking about moving some different walls. And as he left and was probably 10 minutes down the road, Ntende had this great design
Best idea for that house.
One that, like everyone who came into the house was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. How'd you guys come up with this? We came up with it, Ntende came up with it 10 minutes after the engineer had left, and we'd paid him. And had to call him back to the house and say, hey, Brooke, we changed our mind. Can you do it this way? Essentially
combining 3 rooms into one large room, which wasn't a call that you could have over the phone or conversation that you could have over the phone. He had to come back. At that same time, you started doing sort of light remodels, residential, and I believe also commercial as well. You worked on a bar during that time period, and all of that was still within Alamance County. Maybe a little bit in Durham as well, but primarily the beginning of the construction company was here in Caswell, and to this day, that is still the majority of the work that we do.
Yeah, we had one large remodel in Durham, but everything else, for the most part, was either Alamance or Caswell County. And, I think that's always been kind of the heart of what we focused on is our bullseye, which is Alamance County. We have a lot that we love about Alamance County when it comes to investing and building, and we'll talk about that in some of our upcoming videos. But in general, we've really focused in this area, and you and I have a heart for, really staying involved and being involved in the community. And a lot of our clients have come out of that. Some of the different small businesses we've done remodels for and clients we've worked with, either we met them through doing community work, or we built for them and then got involved, either with something they're doing, or they got involved with something, we're involved with, whether it's a nonprofit or, small business association, the builders association, all that kind of stuff. It all starts to kind of wrap together.
I only full-time joined the company. I was helping very, very little in the beginning, but more on the website and a little bit of the marketing and just that business development, having those conversations back and forth. But I wasn't ready to
took some convincing. So
wasn't ready to fully jump into working together full-time because, I don't know, just the fear of being married and doing a business together. What could that look like? But 2-3 years ago, it's been about 3 years.
First 4 years was mostly me with a lot of support. Me in the front-facing portion of the company. Ntende on the back end supporting everything that we were doing, because it doesn't matter if your partner or spouse is in the business or not. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business, there is no way that you're doing what you're doing without the whole family involved. So from day one, you've always been a huge support of what we're doing. And in 22, is that right?
Yeah, I think it was 22.
Probably somewhere in 2022, you had a really nice software development job in Raleigh with all the benefits and, I don't know if there were Skittles and all the other things in your office, but it sure sounded nice outside of your long commute. And so at that point, we had built the property portfolio to around 25 to 30 properties. We had a lot going on there. And then the construction company probably had, 5 to 8 employees at the time. We had a lot going on there. And I came to you and basically said, hey, there's a job here. I'd love for you to take it. If you don't take it, we have to go find somebody else. And you don't have to drive very far.
I didn't like my job.
And you didn't like your job.
I remember coming home almost like every day being like, I am stressed out. I feel like I know nothing and simultaneously feel like I know everything and not being listened to. And people were quitting and being let go left, right, and center. And that was the perfect opportunity for you to be like, hey, there's enough going on the construction and the investment side for me to jump on. And I did and didn't look back. So
talk a little bit about that job you had, because I think from the outside perspective, looking in software development, for those that aren't involved, that's a big,
big
crazy thing.
Yeah.
What was that? And then how were you able to translate kind of what you learned there into what we do now?
Yeah, I'm definitely a person who likes to understand how things work. And prior to the software development industry or getting into that job, I was rudimentarily making websites and teaching myself how to code. Very, very basic. A fun fact, I even built the website for Gibsonville, which was a huge, huge, huge project that I wasn't working alone, but I was a primary lead on that without the experience, and decided to do the boot camp, 6-month boot camp. So I guess the true software developers out there are crying because there's a big divide between people who do the boot camp and people who go to school for it. But I did pretty well in that boot camp, and halfway through it got recruited to this company. And I've learned a lot from that company in terms of you can research things and figure out how to make it work. I learned about working in a team, and if you have one team member that's slacking, it can bring the whole project down. Learned that I do work well independently, but I do also need that community or teamwork to continue keeping things moving forward, because sometimes I can go down a rabbit hole and take forever to fix something or figure something out when I could have just reached out to you or somebody else and found the solution very quickly. And I think that transition into rural construction or working together, I could still use my tech analytical skills, whether it's spreadsheets or our website, properties or our finances, and still put those skills to use, as well as be able to work independently and with our team. So I think it's been a great way that my brain is still being active in such an analytical way.
So what I heard you say was you went from building apps and websites to building houses.
Essentially.
Yeah, okay. And you went from solving, problems that were coming through your, what is it called, QA, or what are the different names of that? Yeah, going from that to solving big problems out in the field where, we've got to deal with rain on concrete. And I think we've always kind of struggled with the concept of whether we scale or stay small. And when we started Roll Construction, the main kind of goal there, even me getting into contracting, was just that we could control our own destiny. Both of us have dabbled with, in different ways, entrepreneurship and small business in the past. We have a lot of friends and family who own and run small businesses. Part of my studies at Elon were entrepreneurship. When we were starting our business, we had, at least for me, I had gone from this love of a tech company in Silicon Valley and become a billionaire. I mean, the billionaire part wasn't so important to me, but having this awesome brand of a company was a really cool concept, to now really learning, small business is kind of where you can build a life, and you can do something that doesn't have to scale and doesn't have to have this massive team and can be sustainable, and you can have a balanced lifestyle that we're still working towards. I think for me, going into it, it wasn't about growing this massive behemoth of a construction company. It was really more about what amount of jobs or what scale would we feel comfortable with without a huge amount of stress, but at the same time, be involved in our community at a level that makes a difference. Have enough between the two of us where we both have purpose and meaning, but not be going to bed every night worried about that massive issue that, a really fast scaling, huge kind of revenue goal out there has.
One of the great things about at least watching you in the beginning of that phase is that you never did it alone. You had mentors and people who've been in the industry or who've grown in that entrepreneurship and share some of those pitfalls and some of the joys that come to that. So you're able to not necessarily not make those same mistakes, because there were still mistakes that we made along the way. But there were some things that we could circumvent, which was at least helping my nerves, because entrepreneurship for me, even though I also dabbled into it a little bit, was still something very nervous, and having that stable 9-to-5 job always felt like that is the safe, stable way.
And you had the stable 9-to-5 job when you came from that world into this world. So that was the reality versus what you imagine that it's going to be like. Scale is not the goal. It is really to build to this point where as a local builder, we have enough money coming in to cover all of our costs, and then something else on top of that to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, worthwhile for not only us, but also our team.
Yep.
And even though we're still like a bit of a baby company starting in 2018 to where we are now, how much have you seen the industry change in Alamance County or within our company?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we're pretty lucky. Like they say that timing is everything when you're starting a business. And from 2018 to 25, and I am saying this in a time period where I think we are about to watch things really shift. But we've seen growth across the industry, across the country as a whole, but specifically in North Carolina. North Carolina has been growing at a really high rate for the last few years. So from 2018 to 2025, to some degree, we have just kind of like ridden the wave. And so I don't want to say that like we figured out some awesome, equation and, just knocked it out of the park. Truthfully, there's just been so much to come down the pipeline for us. And when COVID happened, most of us thought we were going home for 2 weeks and then getting back to it. Through things like the National Home Builders Association, we were able to be considered essential workers. And so we built through COVID, and we actually saw growth during that time instead of, what we all kind of at one point were worried about. And in that time, we were able to get a little bit more market share in this area. We've got a lot of aging companies that are not necessarily being handed down, and Roll Construction is really starting to take on some of that work, which we really value that opportunity. And yeah, so to answer your question, I think we've seen the industry change. We've seen it grow. We're seeing it become a lot more sophisticated. A lot of like national builders are coming into the area. We're seeing a lot of development in North Carolina because we're on that 4085 corridor. There's a lot of, data distribution centers looking at this area. A lot of, all types of distributions looking here. We've got Walmart that's come in. We've got, a lot of others that are looking to this area specifically. I think, a major grocery store just announced $860 million that they're going to be investing in this area for their distribution center. So
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, huge.
And I think that's one of the sweet spots of Alamance County, but also can be cause that tension because there's a builder for almost anything in Alamance County. You've got your national builders that you're talking about who are coming in and building huge developments, but you also have your niche sort of custom builders or the ones who are just sticking to multifamilies or all of that. And we have been growing into figuring out what is the best sort of formula, not only for our company, but the different areas that we're living in or working in or building in.
I'm really excited about, one, the location that we're in North Carolina as a company, but then two, just like where we are as a company. Most building companies that start don't make it past year 5. So we've made it past year 5. We're still kind of in this growth stage. We experienced, being accepted or announced as, a top 50 fastest growing company in this area. That growth is continuing. But, at this point, what's exciting is we've hit just some stabilization on the company side. And now we get to focus through, working with other businesses and other professionals on some of the more nitty-gritty stuff. So really diving into the financials, getting that budget locked and loaded, focusing on brand, focusing on marketing, and specifically within Alamance County, trying to make sure that we are at the table for and getting others to the table for setting what Alamance County is going to grow and develop into. I love that kind of stuff. I love the leadership side of running the company. I love working with people, but I like diving into some of the stuff that's going to really put us where we want to be 5-10 years from now.
Yeah, I know that I'm really excited about the relationships that we're starting to build right now, whether it's with other brokers, other contractors, suppliers, and we're sort of setting that foundation where in the next 2, 3, 5, and 10 years, having those really strong relationships continues to build better quality houses our houses have been getting a lot, better and better every year. It's always been great.
Well,
but I mean,
yeah.
it is getting better and better, and learning what people like, what the industry is looking for, and shifting and changing and molding into that. And the only way we can do that is continuing to partner with those different sectors.
So improving those relationships and then trying to make sure that that quality goes up. And I think this past year, our team really did a great job. You know, we went from in 2024 getting bronze in the Parade of Homes to this year getting gold. And so that's like a very good indication that our team, both in-house and our trade contractors, were able to really kind of step that up. And we were able to see a true difference between the judging in that first house to that second house. And now, you know, it's continuing to grow from there. So yeah, I don't know. I get pretty excited thinking about what's next, and specifically with just like your side of the business too, trying to narrow in on the niche of properties that we want to own and what we're willing to step away from, and you know, putting other systems in place like a property management team, whether that's in-house or out-of-house. You haven't mentioned it yet, but you have your realtor license now. That wasn't something you had when you first started out.
Something that viewers can expect to see from this process of watching us have these conversations and other conversations is learning more about the industry and what that looks like in Alamance County, learning with us, because we don't have all the answers. So there's some things that we're very much verbal processors, you more than me, but they can look forward into learning how the building industry is going, what the housing market looks like, what is quality building.
What we're going to try to do is give a pretty transparent vision into what we're doing as a company, and you're going to get to see us doing it in the process. We didn't finish, you know, we're not done, and we're looking back and saying like, see how we did it all. We are in the middle, maybe still towards the beginning of building a company and growing it and trying to figure out, you know, what's best. And so sharing what we've found out about our industry, sharing what we know about this area, sharing specific things to the industry, but also just small business in general, property, construction, technology we're using,
and
all
what
kinds
does
of stuff.
what does a family business look like being so young, relatively young, but being young?
Yeah. What things are we able to do differently because we're in our 30s and doing this versus someone in their 40s or 50s or 60s? What do we have to learn from those who have been doing this for 30 years and have a lot to teach us? All right, thank you for watching. And if you like this, please stay tuned for our next video, which will be talking about how you build a business within your community.
You know what to do. Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications so that you can see what we're going to talk about.